right, welcome on this Sunday back to another hour of The Story. Breaking right now, former President Trump has just spoken to Bret Baier. He says he is on his way here to Milwaukee for the RNC convention. He talked about some changes in the convention kicking off tomorrow, so let's bring Bret right in. Anchor and executive editor of Special Report. Bret, good to have you with us. We've got a little competing warm-up music back here as they get ready for the week. But tell us a little bit about your conversation with the former president and current nominee.
Yep, we talked for about 15 minutes, and he said I could kind of express some of the things he talked about. He's in really great spirits. He is on his way to Milwaukee, leaving at 3:30. He made a Truth Social post about that, saying that you're not going to let the shooter affect any of his plans. Did consider delaying coming here to Milwaukee, but is moving forward with that. You know, I want to put up that video at the beginning of that speech and just give you his words about characterizing how that all went down. You know, at the speech, you see that he turns to the right. That's because there's this big graphic of immigration stats, about border security stats, and he wasn't doing it in his speech at that moment. Like, it was ahead of time, and he called up the graphic early, and so he turned sideways to look at the big graphic on the side, which is why his head is turned as he's looking that way. There you see it. And right at that moment, he gets this, what he calls like the biggest mosquito of his lifetime, or a bumblebee. That's what it feels like in his ear. And he realizes, he looks at his hand and it's blood, and he goes down. He said it happened so quickly, and then the Secret Service jump on him, and they're very strong. He really praised the Secret Service for acting as they did and protecting him. He also referenced this picture from Doug Mills, the New York Times photographer, and that bullet that you see there in the background, talking about it. He was amazed that it happened. He understands. He's blessed to be where he is today. In fact, the doctor he talked to said if that bullet was a quarter of an inch different position, he would not be talking to that doctor today. He told me a number of things, but I asked about the convention, his thoughts about things and how he's thinking about it. He had a couple of posts on Truth Social that called for unity in the country, and he expressed that he is going to make that a theme here in the convention, and maybe making some changes based on what he says, what others are doing. He did talk about inviting Nikki Haley to speak and her accepting that as one of those things. He praised President Biden for the phone call that he gave him, made to the former president. He said it was a good conversation, and in not so many words, Biden expressed condolences for the family that was lost, the Campagnoli family, and the former president mentioned that as well, being that they talked about that, but also that the president was lucky that he turned to the side. So he praised President Biden for that. He's worried about, you know, how things are going to develop in the country, but he said that he was really pleased with how the Secret Service acted, and thinks that the convention is going to go on as scheduled, and he's on his way here to Milwaukee.
Well, he's one tough guy. I think anybody who watches that video over and over, the fist pump in the air, the acknowledgement of the crowd telling them to fight, fight, fight. It is, you know, it is those moments when you get a sense of, you know, what you're like under fire. And, you know, we all wonder what we would be like in a situation like that. We don't have to wonder anymore about this gentleman. Everybody knows what Donald Trump is like under fire.
I asked him, Martha, about that second, like what made him turn around and do the fist. He said, I really wanted to go back and say a couple of things, but the Secret Service had none of that. But he wanted to express to the crowd that he was okay. He also said, you know, that crowd just stayed put. And they, you know, he wanted to make sure that they knew he was okay as he walked off the stage.
It's
he'll have much more to say, and I think we'll hear from him soon.
Yeah, well, it's great to hear your insights from your conversation with him just now. And we look forward to hearing from him here, and he'll be arriving tonight. So we'll be watching that very closely as well. Bret, thank you so much. We'll see you later.